Happy Tuesday, folks. Welcome to a live episode of Deprogrammed, a live surprise episode. I know it's not my normal streaming day, so if you're watching this later, I hope you get a chance to watch it. We've got a great interview today with one of my friends, Adam Coleman, who I've recently had on the show. We're going to be talking about woke right. What is it? How do you define it? Is it a real thing? Do you like the phrase? Is the ideology it's describing conservative? Is the ideology it's describing right wing? Is it Christian? What is it? And it might be a controversial episode. I know lately when I talk about woke right, I get a lot of people get angry with me. That's okay. I've had people angry with me for talking about the woke left forever. So I'm used to it. You can get mad, but try and use your words if you disagree in the comments or in the chat, and let me know what it is you disagree with. Before I bring Adam on, I just want to say quickly, yes, I had this is the second time I'm streaming since my surgery. The last time was kind of just a hangout, and I was a little out of it. I don't know if you guys could tell. I'm better today. So this is the first stream since I've been back. We pushed book club because I really just underestimated how long it would take for me to feel like I could be on camera afterwards. And so we pushed book club. That means good news for those of you who said you didn't have time to read it. You can still join us. Send me an email at deprogrammedpod@gmail.com. We're discussing The Return of the Strong Gods on Thursday, July 10th. This is by R.R. Reno. The subtitle is Nationalism, Populism, and the Future of the West. Now, this is one of the books that a lot of people who I would describe as woke right refer to. This is one of their texts that they mention and reference a lot. And it's my contention that they get this book wrong. And I want to see what you guys think. It's good to read it at least and know what they're talking about. You'll probably know more than they do about it if you read this book. So Thursday, July 10th, we're going to be discussing it. And then for the following month, I have to pick a new date since we're pushing everything back. Following month, this is appropriate, is Adam's book, The Children We Left Behind. We're going to pick a new date for it so it's not too close to the July 10th. But you have time to go get Adam's book, who's the guest today, The Children We Left Behind. We're going to be discussing this one in August. So go and pick up a copy. Let me know at deprogrammed@gmail.com if you want to be in the video discussion. Okay, that's it. Welcome. So my next guest is a friend. He is an author, a writer. He's one of the hardest working people I know, someone I've been blessed to meet through this whole journey at giving opinions out in public. And he's one of the most sincere and hardest working people I know. Please welcome Adam Coleman. Hello, Adam.
How you doing? And thank you for the kind words.
Yeah, thanks for being here, and thanks for being patient with me and my surgery shenanigans.
You got surgery. I'm not going to be like, get it together, lady.
I'd forgot about the first one even because I had so much on my mind. So I appreciate you being forgiving. I was like, oh, that's right. We were going to do that day. Okay, so you're here today, and I wanted to start with this. We've got links below if you guys want to go check out Adam online, find his book, which I just mentioned. But I want to get right into the topic, and then he can tell you more about what he's got going on at the end. Let's get into the topic, though. Woke right. What is it? How do you define it?
I'm not sure. No, I'm just joking.
Hey.
So woke right is much in the same way as I see the woke left. The word that comes to mind is authoritarian. Everything about, if you say the woke left, let's just say, for example, everything about them is about exerting authority over other people to comply with their belief system. Their rules and belief system, the laws that they want are all moral based, right? The reason why you should, as a white person, not have this job over a black person is a moral framework. And so we need to now legislate it so that we can exert the moral framework that we believe in and force it upon you. And we will use any sort of means necessary to force this upon you. So whether it's woke right or woke left, to me, it doesn't matter. It's about authoritarianism. it's not about uh, democracy. It's not about discussion. It's not about debate. It is about which way can we exert our power over the next person. It's about winning at any means. And so my issue when it comes to the woke right is that much in the same way as the left hijacks things, the right is saying their strategy of hijacking things is actually effective, and we should do that too. So I'll jump right into it. My biggest issue when it comes to these particular people is that they hijack Christianity as a
Yes.
means of power, not as a means of relationship with God. It is just another authority apparatus, right? Um, if we were to say, and this is not a shot at Catholics, but Catholics have an organizational system that is very visible, historically powerful, right? Has a hierarchy that's involved. They have a sort of voting system, right? It's almost like a governmental structure in a religious form, and so um, they want something similar, but in a much more negative way. It's for them, it's just about power, right? It is not
Yes.
about God. It is not about Jesus Christ. It's not about any of that other stuff. It is about using that as a shield towards criticism, using that to inflict harm on others. The complete opposite of what Christianity is supposed to be about. For them, it's not about justice. It's not about being righteous. It is about what object can we use that benefits us? And for them, the Bible or Christianity um, or Catholicism or Lutheranism, whatever structure that they can take to either use as a shield from criticisms or to hit over the head of people um, who notice certain things that they're trying to do, to use it as a weapon, whatever it takes, that's what they're going to do. So I see a lot of hijacking of different themes as an authoritarian measure. Um,
Yes.
and, and when you say like authoritarianism, people think that it has to already be implemented, and there are stages to these.
Isn't that right? Where people say, well, they don't have power yet.
Right? Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So we're just in the same way. Um, Perfect example. When I really started paying attention to all the culture, I don't even want to say culture war because it wasn't even necessarily a culture war stuff, but like the cultural issues that were happening in the colleges, right? You have many years as far as being part of that um, prior to a lot of people even being aware of it. I started catching wind prior to, let's say, 2020, 2019, 2018, of stuff that was going on in colleges that was weird. And everyone said, oh, you know what? Once they get a job, it'll all go away.
Yes. They said, oh, they don't have power yet, Adam.
They don't have power yet. And so these are just stages of development when it comes to authoritarianism. So it starts with an idea or several ideas. Then it leads into activism. Then it leads into figureheads. Then it leads into all of a sudden a moment happens, right? Some sort of social moment where they inject an
Yeah.
idea into the audience and they buy it because of that social moment. And George Floyd is a perfect example. One man's story allowed for much of the Western world to believe things that were highly exaggerative or just downright false. But they used that man's story, someone none of them ever knew prior, didn't care about, and I would say doesn't actually care about. He is a symbol for injecting the world with an authoritarian measures, with a moral framework that they believe suits them the best. And they don't care that other people reject it. Matter of fact, you rejecting it means you're the problem. So either conform or we're going to destroy you. And so this is what authoritarians do, much in the same way that you can look at a dictator, someone who is gaining power. What does he do? He offs his enemies, right? He doesn't reason with his enemies. He finds a way to either kill them, get rid of them, destroy them, discredit them, something of that effect, so that this person can gain power because power is the ultimate goal. So, yes, they're
Yes.
going to cancel you from your job. Yes, they're going to get rid of opportunities for you. They're going to call your employer. They're going to call your clients. They're going to do all these things because you're standing in the way of them getting power. So that's why I always go back to, you can call it woke or not. I don't really care. I care about what it looks like. And what I see, especially for someone like myself, when I started speaking out, um, I didn't, what for me, it wasn't that they were woke. Oh, it's this word. For me, it was about what they were doing,
Yes.
right? And what they were doing was canceling people because they had questions about COVID. They were getting people fired from their jobs, or they were leveraging, I don't know, stuff like OSHA to force people to get jabbed. That's an authoritarian measure utilizing a government entity that has uh, zero to do with your health. And I'm really thankful for something like Dr. J. Bhattacharya and the Supreme Court upholding, like, not upholding, but reversing OSHA's attempt to force people to essentially get jabbed or to annoy them to death about getting tested, um, just so they have a job. So, but you see, that's how it starts. It starts with an idea, and then it trickles into different stages until the next thing you know, you got Joe Biden standing up in front of the American public saying gender affirming care. And this man doesn't know what that means.
Yes. He has no
You
idea.
know, he has no idea. But you know what? His staffers do, and that's what happens. So I'm sorry, the kids who left college, they got a job, and
And their job is puppeting people like Biden,
right, right,
right?
exactly. So that's how it starts. And so for me, I think my biggest problem when it comes to the woke right discussion is that everyone is fixated. Like, it is almost like you call people murderers if you just hint at, hey, what you're doing is a bit woke. Um, it's like calling people rapists. That's how they respond rather than the thing that is actually happening, right? And I care more about the thing that people are saying that I'm doing rather than the label that they're trying to give me.
Yes. Do you think that tactically the label woke right is a bad idea? Do you like the label? Do you hope that there's another one that becomes more popular? Like, what do you think about the label, about that phrase?
I think it just depends on what the objective is. If the objective is to get people's attention, then the term woke right worked. Like,
Mhm.
it got people's attention because they know what you're talking. They at least know of what you're talking about. Now the people are to the point where they're like, well, how do you define it? We're at that stage, but this is like the second or third stage of the process. But it got people's attention. If I just said, hey, you're being a bit authoritarian, they're like, whatever. But to call the very people the thing that they've been calling others really pisses them off. And for 4+ years, we've been saying they're woke, they're woke, they're woke. And then for someone to actually point the finger back, actually, you're doing much of the same thing that they're doing. That really pisses them off using that term. So that's why it depends on what the objective is. If the objective is to get people's attention that there is a problem, um,
It's
and
working.
it's working. Um, and I think the other reason why we kind of have to stay with this is because if you call some of these people neo-Nazis and white supremacists, they'll be like, oh, but they always call us neo-Nazis and white supremacists. No,
Yes.
seriously.
That was one of my
So
questions. Why not just call them white nationalists or white suprem
because right, because the left has beaten it to death, right? It is uh it's the boy who cried wolf, essentially. And so, just in the same way, when they called you racist for the most minute thing, but that's the whole point of the left doing that, is to broad brush everyone, but also to desensitize everyone to possibly being racist, right? So if everyone just calls you a racist for doing normal stuff, then you know what? Then it kind of doesn't matter if I'm doing normal stuff or not doing normal stuff. Like, you get desensitized to it. It worked at first. It's shocking when someone calls you a racist for the first time, but the 100th time they've called you it over false claims, then it doesn't really land. So I could call these people racist, And I could point out the things that they say and they do that sounds a bit racist. I can call these people anti-Semites, and you know what? They call everyone anti-Semites. Like it. So these particular words have been flooding the market, so to speak.
The woke left, what we know of as the woke left, has stripped those words of meaning
Right.
completely, to where now here's what I hear people on the woke right saying, what I call the woke right. They say those words don't mean anything at all. There's no such thing as racism. Or they say, well, there is such a thing as racism, but only against white people, which is weird because the woke left says racism only exists against people of color. Like they're sort of a mirror image of each other.
Correct.
So, can I use that as a springboard to ask you, what role does race play in this emerging ideology that we're calling woke right currently? What role does identitarianism play? Because you've talked about the authoritarianism. Is the
Yeah.
identitarianism a factor?
Yes, but it's an object. So just in the same way that Christianity is an object for someone who is a believer, remember the best way of putting it is we use someone like Jim Jones as an example, right? We can all say like Jim Jones had a cult, right? But it didn't start off that way. It
Mm.
started off with people who were genuinely of faith, and it slowly, gradually turned into let's go to this remote area and take poison, right? So, but that type of person used Christianity to gain power and gain influence. So sometimes it's about the object that the person uses to gain power. So Christianity is one of them, but they also use narratives, they use identity, right? And so we legitimately have talked about how the woke left, using corporate America, using the government, has had a bias against especially white males, but let's say white people.
Mhm,
That's a narrative that is not 100% true all the time, but it is somewhat true. Like
mhm.
there are legit reasons why someone would be upset, and I completely understand that. But that is a narrative to use to gain power and gain influence. See, my white brothers and sisters, this is our way of moving forward. We have to actually come together under white collectivism. And I'm like, huh, that sounds a lot like the black, the pro-black
Yes,
activists that I hear. We
yes.
need to come together under black activism. You know what? We need to buy black only.
They're basically like, "We need to be like the woke left." Like, that's what
Exactly.
they're saying. And
Right.
how can you oppose woke if you're saying we need to be more woke?
Yes. And if I'm just to be like 100%, it sounds strange to me to have people who are white as their first identity point as being white. Like if I've lived in a bunch of different areas. I've lived in urban, rural, suburban, and when I've interacted with my friends who are white, the first if I was asked them, so what are you? Like, what's your background? They wouldn't say white. They would say Italian, German, Irish. They would tell me something Italian, right? So that was always at the forefront. And at the back, they say, well, yeah, racially, I'm a white guy, but it wasn't important. And so what a lot of people, I know this sounds like a little bit of a sidebar, for a
No, it's
lot of
not.
like normal black people, like not radical activists, for normal black people, and I think it's important to talk about this real quick. What a lot of people don't understand is some people say, "Why are you talking about race? Why are you talking about race?" You have to understand that historically speaking, and I know everyone's history is a little bit different, but historically speaking, the narrative surrounding Black Americans is that much of Black Americans are descendants of slaves. Which means that their homeland is kind of a mystery, right? You basically have to do some sort of DNA test to try to figure out which country you essentially come from, or have really good record keeping from well over a century ago. So a lot of people don't know where they're from. So they don't have a country of origin. They don't have a language of
To
origin.
be
They
proud
don't
of,
have
like
a
Ghana or something, right? You know?
exactly right. So they don't have a foreign reference. Um, Whereas other Americans, who I will add, have been their history is shorter in the United States than for many Black Americans. It goes back farther, but I'm just using it as a point that for them, black is like saying I'm Italian, right? When they talk about black culture, right? Black culture might include the type of food that a lot of black Americans eat. Soul food, right, is considered under black culture. We wouldn't have a problem with someone saying Italian culture also includes spaghetti and ravioli and all these different things. And there's a language that's associated. There's a historical reference that's associated with it. No one would necessarily have a problem with these things if someone is talking about an ancestral lineage to a, but for the United States, uh, being a new nation in comparison to much of the rest of the world, they have a foreign lineage. That is relatively normal to see. For a lot of Black Americans, they don't, which is why there's a lot of identity confusion, and that's a whole other thing that happens. Um, but I'm just making the point that not every time a Black person says, I am Black, are they necessarily referring to race? They're referring to almost like an ethnicity or like a marker of identity that is
Cultural.
outside of yes, like a cultural marker outside of identity. So obviously, it depends on how someone is talking about someone. Um, now, the reason I say that is because it's a little bit different when it comes to Black Americans, just because of the history. So it's weird for me to hear my Italian friend say, I'm a white guy. It sounds weird, right? He would 9 times out of 10 say that he's an Italian guy. If you were to ask him what is he? So when I see white identitarianism, it sounds very purposeful that they want to be collective under white identitarianism, which is also strange because it makes the assumption, just like the woke left, that all white people are the same.
Yes.
Right?
Well, I was going to say that what I thought you were leading up to, and you did sort of, is that the woke left, they have been pushing for decades now,
Mhm.
to uh, sort of blend all of these different white ethnicities into one overarching group called
Right.
whiteness, white, and to sort of just melt it all together the way that in some respects black has been all melted together, all these different
Right.
ethnicities, and and then even larger than that, the way the left has made people of color a big kind of like, we want to have these two diametrically opposed groups. One is people of color and one is white, and you're in one of these two, and it's sort of, it's not very specific, like what does that mean, like
Right.
what is what, like you said, it's not specific like Italian or Irish or Scottish, or it's just sort of like white. Like I've even made jokes about like, what is white culturally? Is it tuna noodle casserole? Is that it? But that's
Right.
a joke, because actually where I'm from, it's soul food. The South, it's culturally what you're talking about. It's
Yeah.
so it just depends. It's but is that kind of the what you're saying? It sounds like it's a little bit forced, this whole like white people, whiteness, white culture kind of thing is
It's
forced.
forced. Yeah, it's forced from both sides of the equation. And so the reason I bring up the white identitarianism and the not being able to get a job because you're a white guy and all these things is because within every conspiracy, there's a bit of truth. Otherwise, it doesn't work. And so, yes, there are very real things that have happened motivated by left wing identitarians and left wing authoritarians that have made white males the object of demise. On the flip side, there are the people who are looking for an object to gain power, who say, "Hello, my white brother. Hello, my white sister. Let us come together under a collective and build power amongst each other, so we can fight back under white collectivism." And that is actually the problem. So much in the same way, like, you know, you've been wounded and here comes a helping hand, but not every helping hand has good intentions.
Mhm.
And that's what I ultimately see is, and
Yes.
this is what the internet, um, and I've watched people become blackpilled by the internet because I can propagandize anyone really quick. I can show you 10 videos of a group of people of a particular area. I can show you 10 videos of cops beating people, right? And I can do that every day. And unbeknownst to you, I'm also showing 5, 6 year old videos, right? But I'm making you think that this is stuff that is continually happening now. And I could inundate you with these videos of cops beating people. And in a month, you will believe that cops tend to beat people. Now, this is what is happening online. We've been inundating ourselves with woke left stuff and real stuff that has happened, but there's not a counterbalance to it. It's just every teacher is a groomer. Every teacher is trying to molest your children. Every job you get that you every job that you attempt to get, you can't get because you're white. Like all these different narratives which are partially true have been exaggerated.
Hmm.
And all the horror stories on social media become what people think is commonplace. And they're not. They're horror stories for a reason because they're rare. Um, every person gets canceled from their job because they express an opinion. Every person. And someone might be like, well, I know someone. Okay, one, right? Just in the same way, if I say, hey, not every black person gets beat up by the cops or is killed by the cops, we're like, well, George Floyd. And my
Yeah.
rebuttal would be the fact that you can name, let's say, 5 examples is a miracle.
Yeah.
that means that it is so rare that you can only think of 5 people. You know how many police encounters there are in a given year, and you give me 5 examples from
Yeah.
multiple years. That tells me the opposite. But for someone who's being propagandized, they can't see that. They can't see that they're being used. They're being propagandized to believe that the constant inundation of content is not rare. It's actually commonplace. And it must be commonplace because every day I sign on and I get hit with a new video. It's like, yes, that's what they're doing. They're demoralizing you, they're desensitizing you, and next thing you know, you're like, you know what? I think all black people are violent. Because every day I get hit with a black people are bad video, and I'm looking at it and I'm saying, you do realize that video is from like 4 years ago. Why are they recirculating it? You ever ask that question? Or you don't even realize that it's from 4 years ago. Like you're just caught up in this tunnel vision of negative information, and the ultimate goal is recruiting.
Yeah.
That's what it is. With every movement, you have to recruit people. So I always see it like there are the people who know what's going on, and then there are the true believers, right?
Yes.
And they're the foot soldiers. And
Yes.
and the people who are up top, it kind of reminds me of in the Middle East. They have Islamic law. You're not allowed to drink alcohol, and you're not allowed to do this. You're not allowed to do that. But guess what? The royalty, they have alcohol all the time. They do all the stuff you're not allowed to do. Like all this stuff that they say is part of their religious belief. They do the opposite
Because they don't
amongst
really believe.
themselves. They don't
Yes.
really believe it, right? It is just a means of controlling people. Um, they can't even practice what they preach. So that that ultimately is what I see. I think there are
It's
certain people who are at that point who are trying to recruit more people.
It's like, here's a good woke left example, COVID
Mhm.
example. It's like Gavin Newsom during the COVID years telling people they couldn't leave their house and they had to wear masks everywhere, and then people seeing him at the French Laundry at a big old party with no mask, no social distancing. They don't obey their own rules that they set
Exactly.
for others. They don't believe in what they claim to believe in, the leaders. But the reason it's popular is because, like you said, they're taking advantage of people. They are pretending to be the helping hand,
Yep.
and they get these true believers to be the foot soldiers of the ideology. I really like what you said. I wrote it down. You said not every helping hand has good intentions. And I think you're saying that in reference to some of the woke right figures who are coming in and saying, hey, white people, hey, men, we're going to help you, right these wrongs. We're going to help you with these injustices. And not every helping hand has good intentions. Well, gosh, look at what the woke left has done to black people and to women and to gay
Yeah.
people. Hey, we're going to come in and help you, black people. We're going to right these wrongs. Hey, women, we're going to fix these injustices. Like, that's a hard lesson learned, right?
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
that's exactly it. Um, we have to be able to discern the difference between the two. And this is where being principled rather than being rather than being like partisan, I'll just say that. If you're principled, if you say, hey, just because someone has an opinion doesn't mean that they should lose their job. It shouldn't change because of the opinion, right? It should be that, hey, maybe going after random person, user 4589 on Twitter, because they said something irreverent online one time and getting them fired from their job. Maybe that's not good. Maybe we shouldn't do that,
Yeah.
because people with bad opinions should be able to work and make a living. Now, obviously, if their employer sees what they say and it's just like, hey,
And
that
chooses.
doesn't represent our company, which is a valid thing. Like if I employed people and I go on your Twitter and I see you posting neo-Nazi pictures, then yeah, I might ask questions about your employment because there's a certain representation I want when it comes to within our company, and that doesn't fit. But people starting campaigns of harassment to go after certain people, I think, um, while it may be effective, because once again, it goes towards what do you actually want? Do you want to be effective in enforcing things to happen? Do you want to exert authority? Do you want more power? Then do all of those things because it works. But if you're just trying to be a normal person with principles and saying, hey, the reason why I don't like the woke left is because they do this thing. And then someone beside you says, hey, we should do that thing because it works. And it's like, wait a minute, weren't we just complaining about that 5 minutes ago?
Yes. Yes.
Like,
Be
that's all I'm
it,
saying.
it's principles over tribe. It's
Right.
principles over ideology. And this is something that this is a conclusion I came to when trying to pull apart and understand the woke left is that you have to have principles over tribe and principles over ideology. And it's weird because all these lessons that I learned in trying to better understand the woke left cult that I had come from, all these lessons I've learned apply now to the woke right. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're putting
Yeah.
tribalism above. Have you heard this? Right before we started, I was thinking about this. A lot of the woke right guys, especially the ones who LARP and pretend to be Christians, will post stuff like, don't punch to the right. And you know why they say that? They say that because leftists say, don't punch to the left. And I was thinking about how this whole like, no, don't punch to the left, don't punch to the right, really oftentimes just means don't punch at sociopaths. And
Right.
it's something sociopaths say, and their clueless enablers repeat it. You know, don't punch. Their enablers protect them without realizing it. They're naive, true believers, right? Don't punch the
Yeah.
left, don't punch the right. But it really just means, hey, don't punch at sociopaths. Don't gatekeep. Don't gatekeep shepherds. Don't keep the ravenous wolves
Yeah.
out. Let the ravenous wolves come on in. You know,
I'm so glad you brought up sociopaths because I've been talking to people mostly behind the scenes about this type of stuff. And I've been public since like 2021, and you run into all different types of people. And I've run more often than not, I run into really nice people, no issues, right? But you start to see that not everybody wants the same thing. Not everybody is motivated by the same thing, and certain people move a particular way. And I'm very curious about human behavior. And
me too.
I'm watching people. I don't say any of this stuff. I just sit back and watch. You learn so much by not talking.
Mhm.
So you just sit back and you watch. And I'm watching as one person moves a particular way and how they have a distinct pattern of behavior. Um, and there are two that come to mind, and I'm not going to say their name because then it becomes about them, but it's about the sociopath. And one thing that's very clear that you'll see from many of the woke right is that they've burned every bridge,
Yes.
and they've burned every bridge and they've come to this new conclusion, right? It is the new thing that they can pick up that they don't actually believe themselves, but you know what?
Yes, they don't. Go
It
ahead.
gains
Sorry.
a lot of it gains a lot of attention, right? I found me a niche audience of aggrieved people who will go off of my every word, who will say, yeah, every time I post something about the Jews, every time I post something about the blacks, every time I post something, they'll be right beside me, right? And it's always the same type of followers, who one are much like them. They're also very egotistical and sociopathic. Um, and two, they're usually people who have not excelled at life from their own standards.
Mhm.
So this is where the victimhood angle comes in, right? I wrote Black Victim, Black Victor. I'm talking about victimhood, the mindset, and you can insert that to any sort of ideological framework. But a reason I wrote it is because I'm watching left-wing victimhood being utilized and applied to Black Americans, that they cannot do anything unless the white leftists give them stuff, right? And they just become a subject to gain power, right? The reason we need this law is not because of how it will benefit me. No, no, no. It's to benefit the blacks.
It's to benefit
It's to
you.
benefit you. That's why we need this new law, of course. And I'm sitting there like, how does this benefit Black people whatsoever? It sounds like it benefits you. It is just a means to an end. And so I'm watching the same type of stuff when it comes to white victimhood, especially about look at what they're doing to you. So it's not even conservative victimhood. It is very much so identitarian linked, right? Look at what they're doing to you. Um, and it's we can't do anything because they're stopping us from doing this. Uh, I'm like first off, I find this internet rhetoric makes me laugh because when you get offline and you're around normal people, they don't talk like this. But when they
Mhm.
say stuff like, I'm fighting, no, you're not. You're typing on a keyboard. I'm sorry. Like, I write stuff, but I also recognize that more often than not, this doesn't mean anything to most people. Like, I'm just sharing my opinion. I would never say, like, I wrote that New York Post article because I'm fighting for you. Like, I'm not fighting anything.
It's like
I'm just
Beto, left-wing sociopath Beto, who's like, when
right.
they found out that he doesn't contribute any donations, he doesn't donate to charity at all, and they were like,
Mhm.
this reporter asked him, "Why don't you make donations?" And he was like, "My donation is myself." Adam, that's you could be the I wrote this New York Post article for you. I'm fighting for you. My donation is myself. The thing is this we are laughing at this, but this kind of narcissism is actually very successful. They win a lot
Yes.
of people over. It makes me think of this southern saying that like any mule tail can catch a lot of cockleburrs. Have you ever
Mhm.
heard this?
I've never heard
Any
of it.
old mule's tail can catch a lot of burrs. Like but they do. They catch a lot of burrs. It works. People are like, he is fighting for me. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Um
And they
anyway,
say
sorry
that
to
stuff.
yeah.
No, it's okay. They say that stuff because these are people who feel aggrieved, who feel unseen, and
Mhm.
someone is out there fighting for them even though they've never met them. That's I gotta follow this person. You're saying the words that I wish I could say. It's that type of thing. And I think a lot of people are so unprepared for the narcissistic and especially sociopathic type. And they don't realize that not everybody has good intentions and not everybody is motivated by the same thing. And that this type of person sees you as useful right now
Yes.
until you're not useful. And then I will destroy you. And I can't once again I'm not going to mention names, but I know two people who have gone from network to network and no one wants to deal with them anymore.
Mm-mm. And
And
they
now
go
they're
for
on their
movement.
own.
They're like, "Okay, I'm woke left. Now I'm conservative. Now I'm libertarian. Now I'm anarcho-capitalist. Now I'm Green Party. Now I'm woke left again." Or
Yeah.
like you said, org to org, and every single org and company kicks them out. They can't get along with anyone. They jump from this company that and every time they leave, it's high profile. And they're like, I'm the victim here. I'm being persecuted. It's like everyone at your company hates you because you're a sociopath.
Right. And this
Sorry.
is in
You all know
yeah,
types like this, I'm sure, if you're
yeah.
watching.
There's a guy that I'm not going to use his name. There's a guy that I wrote something um, for like maybe like a month or so. His small publication, and it was amicable. I said, I'm going to focus on other things, and that was it. This is years ago. Years ago. This is probably like 2021 when I wrote some stuff for his small publication. I think it was sometime last year. It was like 3 years. And I never really talked to the person a lot, even when I wrote. Like I just wrote for their publication. And it was like last year, someone sent me a screenshot of this person looking at my profile, and I don't have their publication in my Twitter profile. Now, everyone knows that you have a limited amount of space of what you can put in there. And
Mhm.
I'm sorry, I'm going to put New York Post, Daily Mail, and Newsweek in there. I'm just
Right.
going to do that. Right?
Did
I'm
you
very
do
much
you
so
not
proud
have
of those things.
Deprogrammed in your bio? That you've been
I
on
did
my
not.
show?
I did not. I'll turn
Oh.
off my camera right now. But it's so this person apparently didn't tag me on it, but was complaining about it and showed a screenshot of my profile. And he's like, "See, this is what happens. You can't help people out because they don't even recognize when you did this." But the way he framed it was like he was my mentor. Like I had this intimate relationship with this guy, and I just wasn't appreciative of the opportunity. And almost like, and this is just in my opinion, he framed it as without him I wouldn't be where I'm at. And I took a really big issue with that, but I cursed him out eventually. um but I took a really big issue with that because I said, one, you are super fragile.
Yeah.
Two, I haven't talked to you in years. Why are you looking at my profile? It's not like I interacted with him and or something. You looked for a reason for you to be a victim, for you to be above the fray and say, look, I try to help people and they can't even appreciate me. Look at
Yeah.
me. And I showed him a screenshot of my Substack bio, which does not have a character limit. And I have his publication right there, along with the other publications I did not list.
Yeah.
And he still could not acknowledge that portion. But also looking at this person's track record, no one works with him for a long time. No one. He burns every bridge. Knows
Yeah.
certain people, but some reason none of them work with him. And I think to myself, I know a bunch of people, and I've worked with just about all of them. Or I know I can reach out to them and call them. Why? Because I'm not a crazy person. I'm not a sociopath. Like I actually want to work with people. I don't want to use them.
Yeah.
Like I want to build something. And this person, at the time, I would call him like a lone wolf, but it's much to what you're saying. He's
Yeah.
of the narcissistic type, where he can't work with other, like they just can't work with other
They can't
people.
work together. And they're oftentimes self-aggrandizing online. I mean, for anyone who doesn't recognize red flags of sociopaths or narcissists, I mean, a lot of times there's a Bible verse about like, do not praise yourself, let praise come from another person's lips. Okay. But they
Right.
have to praise themselves because nobody else does. And so unless they amass enough power that then they get people to do it because people, want to be associated with them and the power that they've amassed. But
Mhm.
but if they don't have that power, they're always telling you, "I'm the only person who will help you figure out how to fight back against the left. I'm the only person who does this kind of commentary, or I'm the only person who." It's like they're always telling you, like, "I am a lone wolf, and it's because I am the savior, and you need
Yeah.
me." It's like a cult leader. It's like Manson, like, "I am the only person who can see through." There's a veil that they need to help you see through, for example. Like they're some kind of a, I don't know, savior complex. I had one
No,
of
that's
these
exactly
people
it.
tell me once, like, this person said to me, "No one has done more to save Western civilization than I have." And that was when I was like, "Oh," and I had not been able to see it before with this person, but then I heard that and I was like, "Oh." You think that's true? That's crazy. That's
Right.
crazy. It's
That's
like Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate says that, "I am a god."
yeah. No, he's way out there when it comes to being a narcissist. Yeah. I would go as far as being a sociopath. He doesn't care if he hurts
He
people.
doesn't care.
Yeah. He doesn't care if he hurts people, destroys people. He'll use people, and he'll brag about using people, and he'll tell people this is how you use people. Like he's unabashed in his
He
sociopathic.
he will be, yeah, he's unabashed. A lot of them are getting to where they're unabashed about it. Let me ask you. So this is so interesting that we got into the sociopath thing, and I think it's relevant. I think you understand why it's relevant, and there's a reason why these conversations go there. Sometimes Jordan Peterson and James Lindsay have both been talking about cluster B narcissism. Our friend Josh Slocum's been talking about it for years and how it
Mhm.
relates to bad ideology. Um, Let me just go back over some of these questions and make sure because there's some I haven't asked yet that I want to hit. First, let me thank a couple of people. Push-ups. What's up, dude? Good to see you here again. Hey, look, it's
The same
Kanye's
twin
same
brother.
twin brother. Do you get that a
I'll
lot that
take
you
that.
look like Kanye?
All over the world, all over the world. And I wish I was exaggerating. I was in Milan walking down the street, and this guy said, Kanye, and comes over and just I was like, man, even in Italy, just everywhere I go.
That's a good I can see it. I can see it. That's a good celebrity that you look like reference. Like that's one that's everybody knows Kanye and a lot of the ones I get are old school. Nobody knows who they are. So it's older people that are like, you look like Myrna Roy or what's her name? I'm like, who? I had to look her up the first time. Okay. Mark says for $5 says, I love Adam. Oh, this is about the beginning. He says, this is a complete misunderstanding of Catholicism. Knowing more Catholics and beliefs and worship would be helpful. It's about Jesus, Catholicism. So he's just offering a different
I knew
opinion
this
on
was going to happen.
Catholics. Okay.
I knew it was going to happen. I'm not saying the basis of Catholicism is only about a structure. I'm saying they literally have a fucking church and a governmental system, right? They vote in a pope. Like, I don't know what else you want me to highlight to talk about. It is a organization. I'm not talking about Catholics don't believe in Jesus. Did I say that? Of course not. I'm saying that they have a actual, like a very formal structure. They
They have
have
a
their
formal
own
structure.
city, state, right? So, like, it is a very visible structure. If I said that the
Protestants
Baptists
don't
had a,
have that.
not to that extent, no, they have like their little organizations and stuff like that, but it's not nearly as visible and organized as the Catholics. So I'm not dissing the Catholic. I'm just pointing out what it actually is. Yes, you vote in a pope. Like that's what you actually do, and it means certain things. That is aside from Jesus Christ. I'm saying that there are rules and a governmental like structure amongst themselves.
Yes.
I'm not saying there's a problem with that. I'm just saying that's what it is. What I'm highlighting is that there are people who might use that type of structure or want to say this structure is the type of thing that we should achieve to exalt some sort of power over people.
Yes.
So there are a lot of fake Catholics that exist out there. So
Yes.
I'm not dissing Catholics. I don't have any personal gripe against Catholics. I'm just making the point that there are people, and much in the Protestant view, and there are a lot of fake Baptists as well. There's a lot of fake
Yep.
Christians in general.
Yep.
I'm saying that they're using this, especially because there's an organized governmental structure, and on top of that, there's a historical reference. I was fortunate enough to go to the Vatican, and I'm not a Catholic, and I went to the Vatican, right? I went to the Vatican, and it is beautiful. It's filled with art. In all these historical references, and you know what the woke right says? Look what white people can create. And they always attribute the best of white culture or white people as being aligned with them, and they can barely tie their shoes. Like this is the type. This is what I'm saying. So they're quite literally using uh, these figures, these historical artifacts that are linked with the Catholic Church, right? Things that are found within the Vatican itself, in saying this is because of white white exceptionalism. Look at
Mhm.
what we can do when we come together as white people. We're the masters of the earth, and we've created all different types of things that everyone loves. That's how wonderful white people are.
It's so weird because they drop it though when it comes to Jews. I've seen some of these woke right people do the same thing about IQ, and in fact, some of the ones who LARP as
Yes.
Christian pastors will are doing podcasts now where they're talking about how can black people even be saved like that or do black people have souls. And they're saying stuff like one of them said white people have been doing well over generations, that God has blessed us with an IQ that a higher on average IQ for white people than black people means the reason it happened is because God has blessed us because over generations we are more faithful to Christ. Now, this same person has said very anti-Semitic and racist things about Jewish people. And so if you were to ask, like, does that mean that Jewish people who have a higher on average IQ than white people, is that because they've been more faithful? Is God blessing them because they've been more faithful to Christ over generations? Like, or Asian people, is that the case? Is that why they have a higher? Then it's like crickets.
Right.
But they'll say these things like, this is a testament to, they only apply it to the race that they are using at the time for, or championing for power, the identity group
Right.
they're championing for power. Would you
It's
say
always
that's
to
the
show
case?
that they are better than somebody. That's
Yeah.
what the IQ argument. And listen, let's say if the IQ stuff is 100% accurate, which I got questions about certain things.
Mhm.
As far as how do you come up with all these numbers across the world? Because I will tell you, I've talked to people who've tried to get manuscripts of someone's education and these war-torn areas. And let me tell you, they're like, it's damn near impossible. So for them to be able get an accurate assessment from every African nation, like the Congo, you're able to get an IQ assessment from every African nation that is broad enough and of enough examples to say that this is 100% accurate. I have I got questions about it. I'm no social scientist or anything like that, but I'm just trying to apply some common sense that you being able to organize and gather that much data from nations across the world that don't give a damn about your IQ test, that you have no footprint in. Like, how are you able to gather that amount of information and assess it appropriately? And how are you able to examine if it's actually 100% accurate? Like that, these type of things are extremely hard to sort of assess. There are some things that they do better record keeping than others, but if you're talking about tests, like actually testing people, and like how are you doing that? Or are you just utilizing certain things that are available and trying to make some sort of association? So I don't know. I don't know that someone else knows more about that with me. Not trying to make this a whole thing about IQ, but one thing I will say is that whether someone's IQ is high or not, they're still someone of value. Their life is important, right? And
They're
someone
made
who
in
has a
the
low
image of God.
right, they're made in the image of God, and they can still do things that are wonderful in this society with a relatively low IQ. A lot of people sacrifice their lives for this country with a low IQ, and you have some of those freedoms because of someone with a low IQ. So I'm sorry,
And
not every
on
person is a rocket scientist.
right, and also on I do I take as fact because I haven't seen anything that's really disproved a lot of it that the group averages on IQ, but that doesn't mean that you know anything about individual people. And if you
Right,
think it does, then you don't understand bell curves and you don't understand where you fall on that curve probably in
right,
comparison to others because you're like, oh, so white people have a higher than, or you know, or Jewish people have a higher than average IQ. That means I'm Jewish. I must be the smart. I was like, I don't know if you understand averages, but
yeah,
uh, all that being said, even if it is, even if we're not arguing the point, like you said, it doesn't mean anything about God in blessing different races more than others. And if it does, then that would hold across race. And these people who these white nationalist kind of faux Christian leaders who are saying this stuff only bring up IQ to say that white people are therefore better. They don't bring it up in regards to Asian people or Jewish people. They completely ignore it, which I think
Yeah.
points to that hypocrisy that we're talking about. Like they use whatever will give them power in the moment. Actually, that's a good place to go back to. Let me go back to this really quickly. You were talking about at the very beginning, I asked you to define woke right, and you said authoritarianism. We talked about authoritarianism, and you talked about winning by any means is what you said. I wrote down your quote. So have you seen some of these woke right people are now pushing Machiavellianism? Have you seen this?
You know what's funny? I'm not too familiar when it comes to Machiavellianism. Can you like quickly
Yeah.
describe?
So essentially, it's the idea that you should attain power by any means necessary.
Okay.
Machiavellianism, used as a descriptor, means manipulative. It means deceptive. It requires deception. And I just wanted to put this on screen because some people were always like, "Now here's the catch-22 you and I talked about before we started." People always say, "Oh, name names. Why don't you name names?" Even in the chat, I know somebody was like, "Adam, name names." Okay, but if you name names, here's the danger. Then it becomes about that person as if it's just about that person. It's not. And secondly, it's if you name names, then people are like, "Oh, you've got a list. You're making a list." And I'm like, "But you asked. Anyway, I'm gonna put this up here. I am naming this name because it's someone I've named before. This is CJ Ingalls. He and Andrew Isker are self-professed white nationalist, Christian nationalists is what they call themselves. They are trying to start a white nationalist colony in Tennessee. One of them, they were just on Tucker Carlson. He's been promoting some of these guys. Okay, now I highlight him because here he is saying in his on his posts that we have to be okay. Basically, let me read this to you and you tell me what you think it means. He says, the anon right, meaning the anonymous right, is going to have to be okay with their allies who choose institutional strategies. One of the things that made the left successful was that they never ate their own. The anon right is going to need liaisons in places to give them eventual access. But to give access, you first need people with access. Let's be more Machiavellian. Let's work together. I'm on your side, and I want you to say the things you're saying. And then he goes on to clarify. He says, we may not be able to say, those of us with the institutional access, he says, we may not be able to post the Hitler memes that you're able to post. And we may not be able to say the things that you're saying, but, basically trust, we agree, but we can't do it. Here's what some of his followers say. The institutional allies of the radical left never called them racists or bigots. He goes, neither did I. They are my friends. He's talking about he's talking about the racists and bigots, the anon right. They are his friends. And then his follower says, I know, but that's the status quo. So we need the new right leaders who take institutional paths to forge a new way to power that doesn't require the performative sacrifice of the unwashed masses. And they go on about like Jew serving liberal, like, anyway, I'm going to take this off the screen, but this whole thread is really amazing because they just tell you outright, we want to emulate the left and we need to get power by all means necessary, including being Machiavellian. Any thoughts on that?
I find it hysterical. Like, imagine someone saying, the only thing that matters to me is power, and I'm going to use any means necessary. Hello, friend. Why would you trust that person?
Why?
Like,
hello, friend.
like that's this is once again, this goes back to the personality disorder aspect. It is one who's obsessed with power, because this entire thing is about power. They will use whatever works to get power. That's ultimately what he's saying. And
Yes.
once again, he said institutions, right? What institutions are we talking about? Well, this is the person who wrote it was he said a Christian pastor, correct?
Yeah, well, he's not a pastor, but he and Andrew Isker are leading this Christian nationalist movement.
Right.
Yes.
And
He might be a
guarantee,
pastor. If I'll look it up real quick, but
yeah,
either way, they're leading this Christian nationalist movement in Tennessee.
and guarantee he sees Christianity as an institution, not as not as a means to get closer to God. It is an institution that is being utilized to exert power and to control others, right? To
Mhm.
shape society the way that they want it.
Yes.
And just like every good leader, no, 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 I'm on your side. Just give me power, and we'll make sure that it turns out the way that we all want it. Until I get power, then I kill you
Till I get
all.
power, then I kill you. That's what he's doing. He's telling the anons, the bigots, the ones that they use. He's telling them, "Hey, you're gonna have to, be my friend, and I'm gonna be your friend. And once I get into power, like I'll never knife you in the back, anons."
Right, because I tweeted it, so it must not happen.
Yes. And it blows me away because somebody in the chat said, I think Little Ragamuffin said they're saying the quiet part out loud. They are. And
Yeah.
lately I've noticed more of them doing this on X. I think they've started to feel some amount of power that they've achieved. They've definitely started to pick up some high profile influencers who are speaking some of this ideology, this woke right ideology. And so they feel a little more comfortable, some of them just saying it out loud. And he's just there saying out loud, hey, we need to be more Machiavellian. He's talking to Christians, by the way.
Yeah.
Christianity and Machiavellianism are at odds. Sorry, they don't work together. Deception, manipulation. It's like that's not
Now
Christ's way.
that's your weak Christian framework. We're talking about the strong Christians, right? The ones who took over Europe, Christians, the ones who kicked out the Muslims. Like we're
Yeah.
talking about that Christianity.
They're talking about Hitler. Some of these same guys they say Hitler was a Christian prince.
Mhm.
They say he was, doing the Lord's work, that he's not in hell, he's in heaven, that he was, it's unbelievable. Look, those of you in the chat who are new to this, who don't know, this is why I'm still doing episodes. I'm going to continue to do episodes with people who are seeing similar things and want to talk about it and help, like Adam, give me their perspective. Adam's been writing about this since at least 2023. I was looking through some of your writing.
Mhm.
This whole woke right term for it recently took off, and a lot of people have been falsely accrediting it to James Lindsay because he speaks about it maybe more than anyone, but it's
Yeah.
not, he didn't coin it, he's not the first to use it. You were writing about it a couple years ago, Neil Shenvi was writing about it. It's something a lot of people have noticed. And if you're new to this and you're in the chat, like, welcome, ask any questions you want. If you're not online a lot, you probably maybe haven't seen it yet. But I will say this, it's not just online. um, some of the ones who claim to be Christian are bringing it into their churches. There's a pastor in Georgetown, Texas, bringing it into his church. I know people in real life who have left that church who've encountered this ideology. And um, knock on wood, I hope I'm wrong, but I think it's going to continue to grow the way woke left did. I don't know if it'll ever gain as much. What do you think? What are the chances that this ever becomes powerful?
Um, that's a good question because I think the difference between them is that the left is better at being collectivist and organized than the right is. Um, it tends to be two different types of people, even though there's kind of like the meeting, the eventual meeting where they agree on the same type of stuff, or they attribute certain actions, but they're the right is looking at how the left did this and they're saying, hey, it worked, we should do that thing. Um, so even though that exists, the downfall is that they're actually not good at organizing. Two, the reason why the left is good at organizing is because they're well funded.
Mm,
So unless you're telling me that China, Russia are going to get in the game of funding any of these people who are descendants on the right, um, then well, not descendants, but like people who are disaffected from conservatism onto the further right position of being what we would call authoritarian. Unless you're telling me that they're going to start really getting heavily funded to do certain things, to rally behind whatever, to gain influence, to give money towards politicians, to slowly seep into the atmosphere, um, then they'll make small headways. Um, but I do think that there's an element of them being so narcissistic that they're unable to work with each other. Um, Now, on the left, there are definitely narcissists that exist over there.
lots
The
of them.
difference is that they got money to recruit people who aren't.
Mm,
They can, like when people talk about paid protesters, some of them are, right? Well, where do you think that money comes from? It's not, it's not coming from necessarily Linda Sarsour's bank account. It's coming from foreign. It's coming from NGOs and coming from China and all these different money makers are pumping money into all these NGOs, and that's how they're getting the money. So the narcissist is in charge, but the foot soldiers are well funded. That's how they're able to organize it. I have a friend of mine who has been investigating, especially right after, when the campus protests really kicked off against Israel. It's like, how come we're seeing the same people from one campus to another?
hmm
How come we're seeing the same people who are on the microphones from this campus in New York and this campus in California? How come we're seeing that? It's because, because it's all organized. It's all well organized. It's all highly funded. And the source of the money, and I think he might be an interesting person for you to have on. The source of that money is coming from all over the place. It's coming from the Muslim Brotherhood. It's coming from the CCP, um, and other wealthy. The easy one is what's what's his name? I forgot.
Soros.
Yeah, Soros. Right. He's in everything.
Is he the
Um,
person I should have on? When you said he might be a good person for you to have on, I thought you were going to
no.
talk about the source of the money. You're talking about your friend.
Yeah, my friend,
Yeah.
because he can go into all different types of depths when it comes to this. But I guess the reason I'm bringing that up is
Mhm.
because you're asking, can they flourish? And in the world of activism, you can't flourish without money. So unless you're saying that somehow these highly unlikable, um, weirdo, narcissist, sociopath types are going to start getting pumped with a bunch of foreign money, which could be possible for all I know. Maybe Russia sees like, hey, this is an opportunity. I have no idea.
What do you think
Um,
about that? Because I have heard that Russia and Qatar are funding a lot of the woke rights stuff and the CCP. What do you think about that? Do you know anything
I
about
don't
that?
know. I don't know. I don't know enough about. I know there's accusations all over the place that this is a psyop or that this is being funded by this, and I don't know. And nothing has really been solid enough for me to be like, yes, I believe that. Um, I I don't discredit that some people actually think these things and don't need to be funded for it.
Yeah.
That's kind of like if someone said, "You only say these things on the New York Post because they pay you." It's like, no, the New York Post pays me for say like because I actually believe these things, and it's the added benefit of being paid to say it on the New York Post. Like that's why. Right?
Yes.
So they think it's the other way around. They think their only reason you're doing this thing is because you're being paid. And it's like, no, I'm doing it because I actually think this, and they want more people on there that think this thing, and they're giving you a platform. So it doesn't necessarily have to be. Let's say if it's true that Tucker's being paid by Qatar, Tucker believes these things, and maybe Qatar is like, hey, we like that you believe that thing. Here's some cash.
Although I never know, to your point earlier about some of these people pushing this stuff, like the ones with large platforms don't believe it. I don't know about Tucker. I don't know if he believes it or not. Some of them don't. Some of them, like, I'll name another name, Candace Owens. Okay, some people have been in my comments before saying Candace Owens is not anti-Semitic, and my answer to that is I agree with you. I don't think she is. I just think she's willing to say anti-Semitic things and false things about Jews and 9/11 and all this other stuff. I think she's willing to say it because she's a sociopath. She'll say
Yeah.
whatever. That's my opinion. I'm not putting this on you. Sorry, I brought it up in your interview, but I don't know which ones are funded and which ones are just they're willing to say things for money, or they're willing to say things for clicks, or because it's
Yeah.
popular at the moment. I don't know, but some of them, yes, the followers, definitely. There's a lot of people and follow these influencers who really sincerely do hold these racist or bigoted or believe, just like on the left. There's a lot of woke people who are followers who actually do hold these racist, bigoted beliefs, these woke left beliefs. I
Uh,
just wanted to
yeah.
put this one up here real quick. Oceana 23 and I think David also pointed out that we do know about one instance of Russia funding tenant media,
Yeah.
Lauren Chen, Tim
I
Pool,
thought about
etc.
that after I said it. I remember
Yeah.
that. And uh, not to be that guy, but I'm going to be that guy sort of. I actually do believe Tim Pool and the others when they said they did not know the source of that money.
Right. I believe that too.
Yeah. And then I think it's very plausible that Lauren Chen, because it's like anything else. If you said, "Hey Adam, I'm doing this thing. You want to be part of it? Sure. What's in it for me? Oh, you get X, Y, and Z. Wonderful." I'm not always inclined to ask you, "Hey, where are you getting that money from?" Nor am I going to always, and maybe these are also people who are media people. They're not investors. See, like an investor might actually research these things. Um, they might hire someone to do a background check. Oh, who's the person? What's his name? Because we did a background check. We don't see anybody by that name, or this person's linked with this person. Right? So these are they're not necessarily going to do that, especially if they have a personal relationship, which it sounds like they had either a personal or business relationship,
Hmm.
Lauren, which is why she was able to get them on board. And especially from a content creator standpoint, if someone's offering you money to do the thing that you like, I mean,
You don't often think, like, I just assume, they have a budget because they're doing well. That's what,
right,
I don't know. Like, they're doing well. I don't know. That's why I, like you, I don't think that all those people that tenant employed necessarily knew. I think it's impossible that Lauren didn't know, but um,
yeah,
all the
I
others,
you know,
yeah.
I that's what I think as well. Yeah,
Okay, so I've got a couple more people to think, and then I have some questions for you, I think.
yep.
Coltrane for $2. Thank you, Coltrane, says Matthew 21:33 through 34. I just want to see what that verse is because it doesn't come to mind immediately. Do you know that one?
No, not offhand.
Oh, it's the parable of the landowner and the vineyard. Okay. Thank you very much for that. Um, Force of Light. Two of my favorites. Michelle, we were just talking about you before, honey. I've got to watch. I know. Tell us about you talked to Michelle, right?
Yeah, she came on. We met up in Atlanta, and we did an episode of Breaking Bread together, and met her and her. Yeah, it was her niece. Um, Very nice person. Very good conversation. Highly recommend.
Highly recommended. This is also Michelle. Force of Light Entertainment for $4.99 says Scripture continually condemns showing partiality. Yes. So claiming that God shows partiality based on race is inaccurate. All are one in
Yeah,
Christ.
I
Succinct
mean,
way of putting it.
it's that simple. Like
Yeah.
that's what makes all this stuff laughable. Um, and it just tells you that people are being pulled away by outside sources. They're not and these weird interpretations. And this is outside the woke right and everything, because I sometimes see pastors who are saying, actually, I know that this is how you're reading, but that's not how this reads at all. No, no, no. You gotta look 10 times deeper. And you're like, that sounds like BS. Like, I'm not a scholar of any sorts, but that sounds like nonsense. It's this one line, maybe other lines, but this line sounds very plain and simple. You
Do you
know?
know, Adam, why I think I've become pretty good, maybe knock on wood that this is true, at noticing red flags of manipulators and deceivers and con artists and grifters? Do you know why? Because I've been taken by so many of them in the past. It's not because I'm innately good at it. It's because I have been taken by people like that. Because you're telling me that, like, and I'm thinking about even lately, even on YouTube, there's some guy who does prophecies and stuff about the Bible and Bitcoin. And I was like, I don't know, maybe. And now I'm like, no, no, no. No,
No.
Keri, no.
That's a new thing. I don't know if it's a new thing, but that's a big thing I've noticed is people calling themselves prophecies, and
Yes.
and I'm just like, what are you prophesizing?
Yeah.
What exactly? I don't know.
I'm a sucker for it. That's why I think I've become good at it, because I've been suckered so many times. Push-ups, thank you, push-ups again for the super chat. Says, look, it's Clara Bow from it. Yeah, Clara Bow. I love Clara Bow. That's a good one. And then push-up says, for $1.99 says, doesn't have deprogrammed in bio. Adam, cancel.
Yeah, I should be
Okay.
canceled.
So let me ask you now, these are not super chats, but I saw a couple questions come in. I didn't have a chance to be looking at the chat the whole time, but when I saw a question, I marked it. So here's one.
Mhm.
Oceana 23 says, Adam is saying, Coleman says they're recruiting. Who's recruiting?
Um, well, you mentioned some pastors in different places. See, all right. Here's the best way of kind of putting it. The best way of putting it is that from a media standpoint, we'll talk about the media people, not the pastors, but from a media standpoint, you want an audience, and if you can tap into an audience that has not been reached before, that's a gold mine. That's money uh, that hasn't been sought after before. That's attention that hasn't been sought after, and so I don't think it's a coincidence that within the past 6 months to a year, all of a sudden people are saying the same type of thing. Like it's just one after the other who are saying these things as if they've always said it, but they haven't. Right? Maybe like a year to a year and a half, especially since the initial attack in Israel. But it it's almost like if you sit back and watch, you can see the light bulb go off for some people. And then all
Yes.
of a sudden, all of their content switches.
Yes.
Huh. I wonder why all they're talking about is this thing,
The Jews.
the Jews, or this other thing. Like, and it's kind of a radical position, and it's a thing they never talked about ever before. And I know that a thing happens, and all of a sudden, someone becomes a scientist and understands COVID to the nth degree, and then a gun crime happens, and they become the foremost experts on guns. Like, I know that's kind of a thing online where everyone pretends they're expert on everything.
I
But
hate
what
it.
I'm talking, I hate
I
it too.
hate it.
But what I'm talking about is that this is an active strategy for attention, that this is an untapped audience that they're gaining access to, and they're saying, we appreciate you. And what doesn't help, and it depends on which way you look at it, for a lot of people, they really wanted Elon to make Twitter the free speech arena, and everyone is welcome to say the thing that they want to say. And uh, with free speech comes all types of speech. And those particular people that they would cater towards were on Gab, not on Twitter. But
Hmm.
Elon wanted to open up the gates. And maybe he can sidestep it and say, freedom of speech, not freedom of reach. Well, guess what? Some of the reach reaches through. and there is an audience there. And
Mhm.
now they're on the most, what I would say, most politically active platform that actually matters.
X.
Uh, X, right? News doesn't happen on Facebook.
Mhm.
News, I've watched a viral thing that happened between a journalist and somebody else on X, and then the next day it's in the New York Post. That does not happen on Facebook.
It
So
doesn't. And people on Facebook, I often will take things from X and share it on Facebook because I feel like they're completely different people.
yeah,
But they
yeah,
don't see a lot of the Facebook people don't see the X stuff.
they don't see it, and they don't realize how radical it is. Like like people who stay on X are like war torn people. They've been battle tested. So when you act like an X user on Facebook, they're like, "Whoa, that was mean." I'm like, "That's a normal thing that happens on
That's a
X."
normal thing on X.
Like that's how crazy it is in that
They're like,
environment. It's
that
gotten
meme's
to
a
be
little
crazy.
harsh.
Yeah, like whoa, that I just said I disagreed. Um, so that's but the ultimately my point is that we mentioned before, not everybody believes these things. A lot of people are saying this is an avenue for an audience. Now, let's put it all together. You have sociopaths who have burned every bridge possible, that have run the gamut on all the movements on the political right, and some of them starting on the political left,
Yeah,
have
all
made
the
their way
networks.
further right. All the networking that they did, all the mainstream conservative groups that they used to be a part of, bridge burned, gone, no going back. And here's this untapped audience of aggrieved people who think they know everything, but aren't brave enough to say the thing or don't have the audience to be heard and want
They're
someone to advocate
anons.
for them. They're anons, right? And they're tired of being on 4chan only. They want to be just as relevant as the conservatives, as the liberals, and as everybody else. We deserve a voice.
Yeah.
And they're like, perfect, absolutely perfect. Let's cater to them. And that is how many of these sociopaths are surviving. They're
Yes.
they're catering to the most ridiculous people. Some of them are the most narcissistic people who believe that they're the only ones who have the right idea, that everyone has been brainwashed except for them. They're not possibly brainwashed. They can't be brainwashed. Everyone else is. And here we have finally
Yes.
a figurehead to say the thing. And this person, even your aunt knows who that person is. It's not some weirdo online guy. It is someone who's had a book that's been mainstream in every bookstore and is a relevant name and everyone knows. And now they're speaking to your language. They're speaking
Yes.
your ideology. That's how you tap an audience, right? And this is an untapped audience from a media perspective.
Yes. Gosh, Adam, you laid it all out. I'm gonna have to clip that part right there and put it because it's exactly what's happening. It's an untapped audience, and you've got the sociopathic grifter types, the con artist types who in another time and place would have been going town to town with their little cart selling their snake oil. And
Yeah.
this is the town. They're bringing their cart up. This is their snake oil. Um, I've got some more questions for you from the chat. First, a super chat from Mark for $5. Thank you, Mark. Says, some have defined belief and life in opposition to something. Winning gets so important that they develop bad allies based on shared antagonism, not on what's good or true. I
That's
couldn't
true.
agree more. That's what those people who say the enemy, if my enemy is my friend, that kind of crap. I don't believe
Yeah.
that.
Oh.
Um,
The enemy of your enemy is your momentary friend.
okay, so here's a question from Master Shake. If the dissident right draws all now dissident right, for people that don't know, that's one of it's like basically saying woke right. Some people
Mhm.
prefer to call them dissident right. They like to call themselves dissident right, but they're always renaming themselves. I've seen lately they've been calling themselves the real right. And just so everyone's clear, yeah, the real right. It's kind of like saying anti-racist, isn't it?
Yeah.
They, just so everyone's clear, a lot of these people are now openly admitting and doing tweets and saying we are not conservatives. Some of them are openly admitting this now. But in any case, here's the question. If the dissident right draws all their energy from overreach and excesses of the left, wouldn't the best way to combat them both to totally purge the left?
No, because at the end of the day, all of this is about ideas. It's just they're just going to use one idea that seems to work, and these ideas exist in books. These ideas have, like, anything that the left is doing is not new. Like, it's old stuff. And so the reason they know about it, and for many of them, they went to college and they were taught this stuff in college. And they said, hey, I know you didn't learn this in grade school. Your parents never taught you about this, but let me tell you about Karl Marx. Oh, this is untapped information I've never had access to. It's amazing, right? So it's been intellectualized to death. So none of this stuff is new. You can't get rid of bad ideas. Like, not completely. Someone out there is going to believe a terrible idea.
It will mutate.
Yeah, it will just mutate. It will reshape. And just in the same way, the object of change right now is to say that it either somehow benefits Black people and that's why we need to change, or somehow it hurts Black people and that's why we need to change. Right? But the object is Black people. But you can take that ideology and bring it to another nation and just change the object.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't matter to them. In the same way that one day it's Ukraine, the next day it's Palestine. It doesn't actually matter about the Palestinians, right? It is just an object to cause disruption. It is an object to overthrow a capitalistic society, a democratic society. So all it is just an object. I don't think that you can destroy those things. Someone out there is going to mutate it, use it, and just in the same way, there are good things that people use in nefarious ways. The Bible is one of those things.
Yes.
Right? Like, so you can't root out bad ideas and bad actors 100%. The best that you can do is try to, one, call those things out. And there's a reason why that guy says, hey, we don't criticize people who are on our side. Well, what does that tell you if someone says, you should not criticize me?
It's red flag, red flag, red flag.
Red flag. Like, huge red flag. Because if you start asking questions, you'll get the answers, and it's not the same answers that the person's been saying. It's one of those, side note, it's one of the reasons why I love Christianity, is because Christians welcome questions, right?
Yes.
The Gospels are about the men watching Jesus Christ perform miracles and still having doubts, and him having grace and understanding that why they would have doubts. So asking questions is a fundamental way to get towards truth. And when someone tells you, do not ask questions, that's a huge red flag. And we have a Christian saying, stop asking questions. That is a massive red flag. That should tell you everything. So when you have that guy who's saying, don't criticize us as a Christian, no, we don't criticize each other. That makes them more powerful. Don't do that. Don't discern good information and bad information. Just trust me.
Yes.
That's what he's ultimately saying.
One of these, I'm the only one naming names in this interview. I'm going to name another one. There's the one in Georgetown. His name is Joel Webbin. He LARPs as a Christian pastor, and he's the one that's been saying a lot of the stuff about IQ being evidence that God has blessed white people as a race more than other races. And he says he just says a lot of crazy stuff lately. I don't actually believe he believes it. I think he's one of the sociopaths who he's been accused of cribbing it, stealing it from Corey Mailer and the Stone Choir podcast. And I think those guys are sincere. I think they are self-described white nationalist, white supremacist Christian podcast. It's a popular podcast of this crap. And I think they actually believe it. But then you have people like Webben who take it and try to mainstream it. And it's not that he believes this stuff. He's just willing to say anything for the audience. Okay, so he's one of the guys who likes to say this lately, don't punch right. He means don't punch me, because he's pretending that he's to the right of anyone who criticizes him when he's not. But meanwhile, I first started noticing the weird stuff coming from him because I started to see all these posts where he's attacking Christians like Samuel Say, Megan Basham, Owen Strahan, others. Like, I was like, why is he attacking all these Christians all the time? It's so weird. So it's a red flag. It should be a red flag if you see someone who's constantly attacking and then saying, "Don't attack me. You can't attack me. You can't."
Well, this is
Weird.
also one of those purity aspects.
Yeah.
So this is, like you said, that this is in the narcissist mindset. Only I am to be trusted, and
Yes.
all of them are wrong, right?
Yes.
And so I must discredit them. That's what he's attempting to do. He's trying to discredit any person who would be seen as an either somewhat or very influential voice in the avenue that he's trying to occupy.
Mhm.
Um, and so that's why he's trying to do that. So at the very least, he's trying to discredit them and make sure his audience, one, sees that he is powerful, right? Because now he got this person to debate him. Now he got this person to respond to him. And they would only do that with someone who actually matters, right?
Yeah.
Right. And this kind of goes back to one of those fundamental issues. You have someone like Joel. Um, how do you handle that? Do you ignore them or do you give them attention?
Mhm.
And that's is not a necessarily an easy answer because a lot of people are like, oh, you should debate them. But what they don't realize is that by debating them, you're making them relevant.
Yes.
You're actually, if you're, let's say Piers Morgan, if Piers Morgan has Joel on, that gives him credibility. That at least says that he is someone to even be just somewhat concerned by,
Yes.
rather than just someone who stays in his edge of the world that no one cares about. So
How
there's
do
that
you
aspect.
answer that question? Because it is a hard question. I come up against that question all the time. Do you ignore or do you acknowledge if they become powerful enough? Do you have to acknowledge at some point to try and say, look, this is crazy? Or do you continue to ignore? Like, what's the.
Well, the people, these types of people are usually chronically unimpressive, right? They're not particularly gifted. If they were, they wouldn't be doing the things that they're doing in the way that they're doing it. They wouldn't have to manipulate people if they were actually good at what they're doing. And that's the whole point. As much as they talk about IQ, these people are incredibly mediocre.
Mhm.
And that's the irony of this. The reason why they would say, go to the Vatican and look what white people can create, because they would never come anywhere close to creating such a masterpiece, anything wonderful whatsoever. They're as average can be. The only thing that they have an advantage on is that they are incredibly narcissistic about themselves as far as how important they perceive themselves, or at least how they want to be perceived. But it's all fake.
Mhm.
Like they're themselves. That's what I'm saying. If you give that type of person a platform, you're giving it to them. They didn't earn the platform. They're the person who is outside holding up a sign saying Armageddon is tomorrow. You generally ignore that person because they're probably crazy. But if they did that on Times Square and ABC News brings them inside and says, "So tell us, why do you think that tomorrow Armageddon is coming?" You're suddenly giving this crazy person the platform. Now
Yes.
they're end up in another show and another show. It's like Hawk Tuohy Girl.
Yes. And
It's just
it's and we continue to do this. Look at this. Good Grief has a point. It relates to what you're saying, Adam. You cannot get attention on X unless you post something crazy. Well, that's certainly true, and I think that's why a lot of these people are going in this direction now, whether they're being paid by outside political influencers or not. They're going in that direction because the algorithm is such that you are getting paid more money the more eyeballs that see your posts, and therefore there's this incentive that's creative to say crazier and crazier things.
well, I generally agree with what Good Grief said, but I think there's a bit of a caveat. The caveat is for how long.
Mm.
And the way I kind of described it is like saying stuff crazy online works for sure to get attention, but it's like cocaine.
There's
You
going to be
know,
hell to pay.
it, it comes on hard and you're just like, woo! And guess what? It goes away fast because everyone is fucking sick of you. Everyone's done with you because you've just been yelling crazy stuff and it doesn't mean there's no meat behind it.
Mhm.
Um, so for a lot of these people, they have a shelf life. Um, and for the non-crazy people who are just trying to be normal, like yourself and like myself, while we don't have this wild and crazy high, like people think, like they think that being high means that you're successful. And
Mhm.
for me, I'm like, Thomas Sowell is successful because the man has been around for 40 plus years. To
And
me,
because his
longevity
and
is
because his
successful.
name means something,
Right.
that
His name
people
means
have respect. He doesn't have to praise himself. People will praise him because his fruit speaks for itself.
right. Right, exactly that. So while yes, on X, say some crazy stuff, you'll get a lot of attention. You show up on Piers Morgan, all that is wonderful. But guess what? 6 months later, perfect example. Um, what's her name? Pearl. Have
Oh,
you
yeah.
heard have you heard much about Pearl? Has anybody had Pearl on her program recently? No.
I finally muted her, so I thought that was why, though.
I mean, I muted her as well, but I don't see clips. I don't see her being invited. I don't see anybody rocking with her. I don't see any of that stuff. And Pearl, um, even like her YouTube numbers were declining a while ago. For all I know, she's not even on YouTube anymore. I have no idea. Like she's just not relevant. And the reason being is because she didn't have any real substance to her. She just became the person who's throwing poop at everyone. And so people are going to eventually avoid you. Like that's exactly it. But it's the same thing. She said wild and crazy stuff. It's the cocaine high. Piers wants to have you on his show and debate with you and ask you questions as if your grievance makes sense. Um, when really he's just doing it for shock effect.
Yes.
But that gets old, right?
Eventually, everyone leaves except you. You will have cultivated a following of people who like to have poop flung,
Right. And
which is not.
it's a very small amount of people who don't who won't get tired of that.
Yeah.
But if you're talking about like someone who's going to become long-term relevant, it's not usually the case. Um, being doing the thing that we're doing is difficult for longevity. It's hard. Um, it's even harder if you're just a one-trick pony. If there's no substance behind you, like there's no flexibility in you. All you have is one mode, and it's to scream and yell. Um, like at some point, no one's going to care. And granted, you can just start up a YouTube channel and you can scream and yell till forever. But we're talking about relevancy, and the question is, do you give these people attention? And I
Mm,
tend not to.
mm,
I tend not to give these people attention. What I tend to do is say, this idea is a bad idea, or this is what a narcissist or a sociopathic type looks like, or beware of the sociopath. They do these particular things. And it may or may not be about the thing that's happening at that moment. But I think it's important for us to identify because it doesn't start and end with Joel, right? It's people who are in our lives. It could be
yes.
family members. It could be
Yes.
supposed friends, coworkers, bosses. Like you should be able to identify um, who these predatorial type of people are, who are the people who are using you for the moment, the people who are love bombing you, right? Being able to identify these things. And I've talked to people, and I'm sure you have, where you talk to people and they're like, "Oh, I didn't see that." Like they might be after the fact. They're like, "Why did all this happen?" And you're like, "Actually, tell me the story." And then throughout the story, you're like, "Red flag, red flag, red flag, red flag,"
Yes.
and they
It's
just
hard to
don't
see
see
it
it.
sometimes if they're close to
Yeah.
you. Yeah.
Yeah.
A couple more questions and one super chat from Pushups. Thank you so much. 4.99 says, I would drop the jokes and ask a serious question, but Adam and Keri are so good at this. They have it covered already. You guys rock. Well, thank you for the compliment, Pushups, and thanks for
Thank you.
hanging out today on a Tuesday. I want to ask you, this is a statement. It's not a question, but it's going to give me a question for you. Good Grief says, I miss my life pre-red pilling. Now, I know Good Grief. We have some overlapping things in our journey of waking up and leaving the left and stuff.
Mhm.
Or I recognize Good Grief from the chat anyway, I should say. What can you say to people who sometimes the process of waking up and being able to discern evil or these sociopathic characters or bad ideology or propaganda, manipulation, Machiavellianism, stuff like this, being able to see it will sometimes cause a lot of worry and anxiety and demoralization, as you mentioned, and depression. So, what are your tips? What have you learned through experience works to overcome that and to get past worry, anxiety, demoralization?
Well, that typically happens mostly, I would say it mostly happens in the online space. So the antidote is to get offline, like go interact with people, because both are real. So when people say Twitter is fake, it's not fake, but it's not 100% real. It is a section of the world. If I remember, I don't know if this is still correct. This might have been pre-Elon, but it's like 5% of the U.S. population uses Twitter, right? So something to that effect. So it's very small. So it's a small subset of the American public that are on there, and obviously there are people from other countries that are on Twitter. Some of them are bots, but we don't know. It's hard to tell sometimes. Um, so when you leave and go into the world, the anxiety becomes less and less, and I think it's because the the X world especially, but the online world is built on getting your attention and propaganda.
Mhm,
And it doesn't matter if it's things that you like or dislike. The
mhm,
goal is to get your attention. The goal is to make you believe that a particular thing is happening uh, frequently, or this particular event is far worse than you realized. Um, that there is some sort of greater connection to everything. And I'm saying this as someone who writes for different publications. And there's some of these publications I've seen certain objectives, um, and maybe not necessarily by the publication, but by the writers. Like it really just depends. But none of this stuff is by accident. Like we have outlets that cater to a particular audience. We don't have an unbiased media apparatus. Everyone has their bias. Some are more honest than others.
yes. Some are just more on I prefer the honest ones. And
I
when I
prefer the
first
honest
started leaving the woke cult, I don't know if you had this moment, but when I first started leaving the leftist world, which had been a cult for me, which had been an echo chamber, I started looking at some conservative publications that I had never looked at before because I had always been taught, in my little echo chamber, they're evil. But I started looking at their about pages, and a lot of times they would tell you, we cover the world like Daily Wire, so, or we cover the world from a right wing perspective, a conservative perspective, however they would phrase it. Breitbart, they would say, we are conservatives, we are this. And then I went to some of the leftist publications I've been reading for years, BuzzFeed being one of them, and they don't say we're a left-wing publication or even liberal. They don't even pretend to be liberal. They just say like we're a non-biased media outlet. I'm like, no, you're not.
one.
Huffington Post, just say the truth. Don't
Yeah,
pretend.
yeah, exactly.
Don't pretend.
Um, yeah, so to help people, if you're talking about anxiety, I think you have to get offline. And
Get
I've
offline.
I've watched people who just disconnect, especially from X, because it's a lot. I've watched people disconnect for a week or two, and they're just like, "Oh, it feels so much better." I just like I got it off my phone, and I've done that a couple times, where it's just like take it off your phone. Uh, and I saw like the habit of clicking the spot where my app used to be. when I took it off, and I'm like, fuck, this is a problem.
Crazy. You mean your
Yeah.
finger would go there to open it and it wasn't there?
Unlock my phone, and the first thing I'm clicking on is this. I'm like, this is a problem. But that's what I'm saying. Like all of this stuff um, is geared towards getting you in the habit of being propagandized.
Yes.
Um, so I think if that's your source of anxiety, then you need to disconnect, maybe temporarily, just step away. But I do think that it's important to balance what you see with
Mhm.
what is happening in the world. And I would hope most of the people out there, they use Twitter, but they also leave their house and go interact with people, talk to family members and stuff like that. Which is actually, it's funny when you see Twitter things in real life. Like that has happened to me like
What do you
very
mean?
randomly. Like a recent thing was them talking about how they wish Trump was killed. And I'm just
Uh,
like, wait, what? Like I wasn't expecting it here. And it was a weird situation
when it
over here.
leaves the online world and you do bump up into it into the real world in the real world, yes.
Yeah. And they were boomers. That's why I tweeted out that there's something going on with the liberal boomers. Like they're they're becoming far more radicalized than I initially thought. And I started cluing in like when the whole Elon protests were happening. I was like, how? Because I'm in New Jersey. I was driving down the road and I see people holding signs, and it was about this was when Elon and Doge was in, and I glance over and it's all gray hair. I'm just like, wait, what? The
Yeah,
protests are just nothing but old people. Like, what is going on? And I
yes.
just kept seeing that. All the footage I would see, it's like 65% old people, just gray hair everywhere and sprinkling in of other people from different age ranges. And I was like, what is going on with the boomers? What's happening with them? And then I overhear two boomers talking about how that the death that basically like that they wish he was killed and blah blah blah. And I was just like, what? And then here's what drove me crazy. In the next sentence, they were talking about Jesus Christ. I was like, where am I?
Oh,
I was just like, what? How do you go from talking about you wish someone was dead to Jesus Christ?
yes, because they're clueless. I really like a lot of times I notice this is people who are like, I'm sure you know this as a Christian, we
Mhm.
all have the capacity for good and evil a
Yeah,
myriad of times a day. Multiple times a day, we have the opportunity to behave in an evil way or a good way. And, but some people over time, uh, uh, the best I can describe them is that they have chosen a multitude of evil choices and they are basically living in evil every
yeah,
day and breathing it. And a lot of times when you're in that place, I think you're so disconnected. You can say stuff like, I want to murder this person. And by the way, I'm a Christian. And you're like, what?
yeah.
like you're, or they think they're a good person or I don't know. It's crazy. Like, they have a moral high horse while saying truly unhinged things about, assassinating a president, for example.
Yeah.
It's baffling.
Well, this is often what I would call the aesthetic of Christianity.
Mhm.
Like it's just an aesthetic. You're like, amen to that. So I'm gonna go to the club and sleep with 10 guys. Like, wait, what? Which is that?
Yeah,
Uh, you know,
yeah,
Saturday night I was at the club grinding with everybody and fornicating, and
because it
Sunday I'm
means
in
nothing to
church.
them. It
It
means
means nothing.
nothing.
That you're not repenting. Like when I got baptized, I made promises
Yes.
that only my wife knows. Um, I made specific promises in front of my family, in front of my wife, to God, and I've kept those promises. Granted, I just passed my 1 year as far as baptism goes.
Happy
Um,
birthday.
happy birthday! Actually, my actual birthday is coming up August 1st.
And your other
Uh,
birthday's coming up. Cool. Okay.
yeah,
Happy double birthday.
double birthday. That sounds like a '90s action movie. Double birthday with Jean Claude Van Damme.
Adam, let me
Um,
just say, the more I learn about you, the more I have an affinity for you because I'm always learning things like taking it seriously, taking baptism seriously, making vows before God.
yeah,
I think what some of the stuff I've come to know about you and how you treat not just your faith but your marriage is also I just love it. And I know we're getting a little off the subject of woke right, but I think this is a part of the antidote to all this evil, whether it's woke right, woke left, evil ideology, whatever. Um, it's how you live. It's like how
yeah.
you choose to behave every day. And yeah, I don't mean to cut you off. I just love that. I love the way tell me what you think about marriage, real quick.
Um, I think marriage gets a bad rap. I do think that. So I say this as someone who grew up in a single parent home. My mother never got married to this day. She's not married. Marriage was not emphasized. I knew that I wanted to get married, but I also didn't have the tools to understand like how to approach it. Um, and I think I wanted it for the wrong reasons, just like other things that I was doing, in my insecure years. I want it so she will be there, like she will always be there, and someone will always love. It's kind of like a woman who wants a kid so that they have someone who will always love them, and it's
Mm,
the wrong reason to have a child. In the same way, it's the wrong reason to get married. Um, and I've never been, yeah, I never bought a ring for any other woman. I had other relationships, and a couple of them, had discussion about marriage, but they fell apart. And I believe that, you attract, well, from a guy's perspective, especially, you attract what you put out. Like the quality of woman that you get um, is based upon what you are. And
mhm.
I had years of, I had issues or I had things I need to work out. And that's why I have a flawed girlfriend. Right? And that's why they had a flawed boyfriend. Like we both have
Yep.
issues. Um, and so when I worked on myself and I improved myself and I got over a lot of different things, went to therapy and did all these things, you know, I ran into my wife and she's perfect for me and very much so in love with me and I'm in love with her and this is it. So when the time came, and I don't even know if I told you this, but I met her. We became official in September 2019. I proposed to her September 2020. We got married September 2021. Like I just knew. It was like, that's it. This is it. So that's why every September we go on vacation for our anniversary, to celebrate our marriage. So it means a lot to me. Being married means a lot to me.
Well, you and I have a similar timeline.
Yeah.
'Cause my fella and I met in July of 2019. We got married in 2021. That's right, we had a similar timeline, all these life events. I love you take your wife on a vacation every year, and this year, she doesn't know where you're going, is that right? It's a surprise?
Yeah, she doesn't know where she's going. I don't know if I want to risk saying it
Don't
in
risk
case
it. She
she
might
might be
hear
in the other room.
but I told you I was joking with you on X, I was like, "You better tell her at least what to pack for," being a
Yeah,
lady. And
yeah.
you told her what to pack for.
Yeah, she knows that we're going to 3 cities and a beach. That's all she knows.
That's so
So,
great. I love it.
yeah. When we get to the airport, I'll tell her. I'm trying to
Oh
figure out if I wanna
my
tell her the
gosh.
entire trip at the airport or if I just wanna tell her
The
one
first
step at a
part?
time. Yeah.
Ah, it's so romantic. It's like a movie. Okay. Um, okay, well, Adam, I could talk to you about anything for forever, and I could talk about woke right more, and we probably will. I am gonna wrap it up here if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
Um, I think it's been about a couple hours and I'm getting a little tired. Again, I appreciate you being patient with me with this post-surgery period
Oh, yeah. No
and
problem.
so much for your time and coming on and talking with us. Will you just tell people where they can find you online? We have links below, but what's going on with you lately and what are you up to?
Yeah, people can find me on Substack, adambcoleman.substack.com. I'm the founder of Wrong Speak, so you can go to wrongspeak.net. Check out what we got going on there. I'm also part of a new project, a new streaming platform that's coming soon, um, with some podcast series, some documentaries, feature films in the future, things like that. It's called Thirst Entertainment, along with Monica Matthews co-founding it. Um, so they can go to thirst.network, look at it
Okay.
there. Website's still being worked on, so it's not super special at this moment, but it's coming soon. Um, and yeah, I was just telling you, this weekend I'm going to film an original series, like kind of like the pilot. Actually, probably we'll film like 2 or 3 episodes while I'm out there. But I'm going out to Nashville and I'm going to film an original series with someone that will be part of Thirst.
Awesome. Well, congratulations for all of your life events. Happy
Yeah.
birthday. And thanks for coming on. You guys go check out the links below. Check out Wrong Speak. Thanks, Robert. Robert Lowry's here throwing some links in the
I keep
chat.
forgetting the YouTube channel.
The YouTube channel.
Yeah,
And I think I thanked everyone. I did.
I need to
Okay.
be more consistent with my YouTube channel. That's why. That's why I keep forgetting.
Oh, that you got so many irons in the fire though.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. I think I got everything. Thank you guys. Thanks for being here. If you like this video, please share it, leave a comment, do the things that you're supposed to do. If you don't like it, tell me why. Use your words. Don't be mean. And you guys go and check out Adam and just tell him thank you for being here on Deprogrammed. Thank you guys. Thanks, Adam.
Peace.
Bye. Take care.